my name is Hannah, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing kind of a shorter video. At least I think it's going to be shorter. We'll see how it turns out. And it's just going to be kind of a whisper ramble kind of video. I'm going to be talking about my favorite video games. I don't know how many of you play video games, but hopefully you'll enjoy this video even if you don't. I have 9 video games to share with you. I was trying to pick 10, but going through my collection, I could only pick 9 that were really my favorites, and I didn't want to just pick a random one just to come out with 10, so I have 9 to share with you. So, and today's video is in English as well, because I haven't made one in a while. So, without further ado, sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. So, let's get into it. So, the first video game I have here is already a little bit controversial. It is Oblivion, The Elder Scrolls 4. I don't know how many of you play video games or how many of you are fans of Elder Scrolls, but if you like the Elder Scrolls, you'll definitely have an opinion about this, whether you agree with me or not. I actually came into Oblivion after playing Skyrim, so I kind of played them backwards. I actually just started playing Morrowind again. Maybe not even a few months ago, maybe a year or more ago, I rented, I got on loan Morrowind from the library, and I was playing it a little bit, but I got really frustrated because going through the Elder Scrolls games backwards, which is how I feel a lot of people have gotten into them because Skyrim got so popular. It's at least how I played them. I played Skyrim first, which is the 5th Elder Scrolls, then I played Oblivion. And just recently I played Morrowind. I'm still playing Morrowind. I'm really just at the very beginning. So I got it about a year ago from the library, played it a little bit, got frustrated, but I just recently wanted to start playing it again, so I actually bought it and just started a new game, and the learning curve is massive. It is so different than playing Skyrim and Oblivion. I feel like it's really easy to go from Skyrim to Oblivion because the game mechanics are very similar. They're a little bit different, but they're very similar. But Morrowind is just so different, especially the combat. I am struggling so much with. I don't know if it's because, I think in Skyrim at least, I think in Oblivion too, the enemies level with you. So at the beginning they're much easier to fight, then they get harder to fight as you level up. But in Morrowind that's not the case. They're just kind of as difficult as they are from the beginning. So I'm a really low level right now, and I'll just be walking somewhere, and an enemy comes out of nowhere and kills me. And that happens all the time. I die all the time in Morrowind, so it's a little bit frustrating. So I don't think Morrowind will top Oblivion as my favorite in the series. But I am liking it so far, so we'll see how that changes. I like Oblivion the best, I think, just because I love Cyrodiil. I love exploring Cyrodiil, and the game just feels a lot more alive to me than Skyrim did. Because in Skyrim it felt like you'd solve the crises, you would end the Civil War, right? And everyone would still be talking about the Civil War as if it were going on. Whereas in Oblivion, you save the people in Kvatch, and then everyone's like, oh, you're the hero of Kvatch. Like, oh, this thing you did, oh, this thing you did. Like, people talk about it in Oblivion. Like, it seems like the stuff you do in the game actually makes a difference on the world. Whereas in Skyrim, that doesn't seem to be the case. Like, I ended the Civil War, and all the Jarls are still like, those damn Stormcloaks, and I'm like, hey man, I defeated them. Yes, I always did side with the Imperial Legion, and that is because in Skyrim I was a Khajiit, in Oblivion I was a Breton, and in Morrowind I am a Dunmer. And so I feel like in Skyrim you can't really side with the Stormcloaks unless you're a Nord, because they're kind of racist to all the other races that aren't Nords. They're actually really racist. That's kind of the whole premise of their fight. So I side with the Imperial Legion. I do feel like morally, despite all of the problems with the Empire, siding with the Imperial Legion is the better thing to do. And I always go with my gut in games. I always try to do what I think is the best. I never try to do a run where I'm like trying to be evil or anything. I always try to do the good thing. Except joining the Dark Brotherhood. I did do that. But besides that, I always try to go for being the good guy. So, anyway, let's move on to the next one. Here. So this is the new Super Mario 3D All-Stars for Switch, but I'm including this just for Super Mario 64. I actually never played, well, I did, excuse me. So I did play Super Mario 64 DS when I was a kid, so a long time ago, long time ago. And then recently when this game came out, with like kind of the 3 games in one, I played the original Super Mario 64 and loved it as much as I loved the DS one, which I think was a really great remake, by the way. It's just such a good platformer game. I love kind of the open world kind of feel. It's not exactly an open world game, but I love all the unique different levels and collecting the stars. It's just very relaxing. Innocuous, kind of fun. So I really enjoyed it playing this one. I actually will include Super Mario Sunshine later in this list, but I actually have never really been able to get into Super Mario Galaxy. To be honest, I know it's really highly rated, people love it, but I've never really been able to get into it. It didn't really suck me in. The whole premise didn't really seem interesting. Bowser's at it again, stole Peach, you know. I guess that's what the premise of Super Mario 64 and Super Mario Sunshine are too, but for some reason I just couldn't really get into the style of Super Mario Galaxy, even for the Switch version, because I'm not a big fan of Wii games. Not really fun mechanics there, in my opinion at least. But yeah, so that is this one. Let's move on. The next game is Harvest Moon, A Wonderful Life, or Another Wonderful Life, excuse me. I never played the original A Wonderful Life. It's basically exactly the same, except you're a man and you date women, and this one you're a woman trying to marry a man. But otherwise it's exactly the same, except you can't cheat. There's cheats in this one that you can't do in the first one. So when I was little, when I played this game, I would cheat all the time, but when I played it recently, because I played this game a bunch of times, I haven't cheated, and it's a lot harder, but it's a lot more fun that way, I think. After playing a bunch of games where all you're doing is shooting and killing people, playing a game you're just trying to grow your vegetables and farm is very relaxing. I love how, so this game, I love like the cheesy graphics and all the people you meet in the town. I love that it's a little bit open world style. The world is very small, but you kind of can walk around for a few months. I actually couldn't really get into Stardew Valley after playing this game because they're so similar. But I feel like I like the style of this game better, so every time that I went to go play Stardew Valley, I was always like, I could play Harvest Moon and I enjoy that more. So, as much as it may surprise you, or you may disagree with it, it's not that I think Stardew Valley is a bad game at all. I think it's very cute and I think it's done very well, but I just couldn't get into it as much as Harvest Moon. At least this Harvest Moon. So, yeah. Alright, let's move on to the next one. An older game. This is The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time for Nintendo 64. I love this game so much. I think it is such a classic, such a well-done version of Zelda. I never really got into like the handheld Zelda games, like for Game Boy Advance or DS or anything like that. I was really just into the ones for consoles. And I originally played this quite a long time after it came out, about I think 5 or 6 years ago that I first played Ocarina of Time. So a while ago, but quite a long time after it came out. And I have to say that I think it stands up really well to time. I think that if you have come into Zelda from Breath of the Wild or another recent game like that, I don't know how much you would like this game, just because it's so different. But I think it's definitely worth a playthrough with a guide maybe, because I think the older games are definitely a lot harder than the new games. But it's such a great game. As soon as I finished it, I was so sad. I wanted to replay it again immediately, but since I've played it, I actually haven't replayed it, so I've only played this through once. But it still stands up to being one of my favorites. Majora's Mask, unfortunately did not make the cut, even though I've played that too. Just because the whole timing mechanic in it really stressed me out. That's really the only reason why I haven't included it as one of my favorites, because I think also it's such a well done and lovely game. But just the fact that you're timed as you go through the levels, I hate it. I hate it so much. And you can't save and come back. You have to like sit down and do one level in one sitting. And especially because my Nintendo 64 is a little bit broken. Actually, it's completely broken now. But when I played Majora's Mask, it was only a little bit broken. So if you would stomp or walk really loudly, it would freeze. And so I would like be in the middle of a level, I'd get frustrated. I'd pause it, sit it down, come back to it later thinking that when I'd come back it would be frozen. And I'd have to do the whole level over again. And that'd be so frustrating to me. So that's why it didn't make the cut. But Ocarina of Time doesn't have that problem. You can save whenever. So that is one of my favorite games. So let's move on. The next one is one you'll probably recognize. Animal Crossing New Horizons, this definitely made the cut. I have been playing Animal Crossing. The first one I played was City Folk, so I never actually played the original one for GameCube, but I did play City Folk and Wild World and New Leaf. So I played those three before this one, and I have to say, this one is the best, hands down. Like, it deserves all the popularity it's gotten, in my opinion. I think that they have gone a long way with the Animal Crossing series, and they have done an exceptional job with this one. There's just so much to do. I've actually been neglecting my town a little bit. I haven't played in a while. Probably like in a couple months or more. I've just completely left my town neglected. But when I first got it last March, a few weeks after it came out, that's actually why I bought a Switch to play this game. I spent so much of my time playing it just because there was really nothing to do with quarantine and I was out of school, and I played it so much. I have, I think, about 500 or 600 hours on my island, and 500 or 600 hours in a game for one game is quite a lot, I think. It sped by so fast with this game. There's so much to do, making your island, customizing it. It's a great new installment of this game, so I can't wait to see what they come up with next with Animal Crossing. I don't know how they're gonna top this, but it is just such a lovely little game, so relaxing. It's a little bit stressful when you're like, I have to get my island perfect, 5 stars, make it look as good as everyone on the internet. But it is just such a charming game. I think charming is just the word to describe Animal Crossing. It's just a very charming game. Alright, let's move on. Alright, the next game is The Legend of Zelda, The Wind Waker. I love this game so much. It is my favorite Zelda game. I think you can tell by all the GameCube games that are on this list. The next 3 after this are also GameCube games. But I think, like I said before, that Ocarina of Time really stands the test of time. But this game, I think, even more so does that. Especially the graphics. The graphics are incredible. They're very simple. They're kind of Disney-like graphics, I feel like. They kind of look like what Disney graphics look like now, which is really interesting. But they've aged so well. Like, unlike any other game I've ever played, these graphics have aged that well. And the game, it's like one of the first open world games I ever played. I love that you're in the ocean and that you get to visit all the different islands. I love exploration, the exploration aspect of games a lot. And, the world isn't too big in this game, especially because it's an older game. But all the different places you get to explore, it's not too difficult a game. It's very easy to get through without any guides. At least that's how I remember it. I haven't played this game in a while. I think it's a masterpiece. People might disagree with me on that, but I think it's absolutely a masterpiece. I think the story is so good too. Breath of the Wild has been hailed as like the best Zelda game ever. It's gotten like over 90 out of 100% on different rating sites. People tend to love it. It's like super popular even now, a few years after it's come out. And I'll be honest, I did not really like Breath of the Wild that much. I didn't even finish the game. You know, if you've played the older Zelda games, you'll know that Zelda games are very formulaic. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I think they're formulaic in a really good way. They know how to, like, set different spins on the same kind of formula. Majora's Mask is a really good, I think, example of a Zelda game that kind of is a twist on a Zelda game, but it still very much feels like a Zelda game. Whereas Breath of the Wild doesn't, you know. There's no, like, magical instrument that you get. There isn't, like, a sequence of temples that you're supposed to go through. Whereas I feel like Wind Waker is an excellent version of, like, the formulaic Zelda game that is still its own game in its own right. It doesn't, the formula of Zelda feels very classic and nostalgic and very familiar, but every time they do it in a different way. So every game feels like a different game. Although there are some Zelda games that I don't like, I will say that, but at least the ones that I've mentioned so far, you know, they take their own twist on it, while still retaining the same kind of Zelda formula, so that's why this game made my top 9. My favorite Zelda game ever, so I definitely recommend that you give it a go. If you haven't already, you'll enjoy it so much, I promise you. Alright, time for the next game. So these next 3 are actually my top 3 favorite games ever. So I'm going to be very excited talking about them with you. Number 3 is Super Mario Sunshine. So this is the original one. I also played it again for Switch and was very disappointed that the axes, were not inverted. But that's a story for another time. Still very much enjoyed it though. Didn't ruin the fun that much. So Super Mario Sunshine is another masterpiece of a game. People really used to love this game. I feel like recent critiques of it haven't been as positive, which I'm surprised about, because I think it holds up really well the test of time as well. I just love the vibe of this game, like the very summery vibe. It makes me very happy, especially because I first played this game when I was really young. And so it kind of just reminds me of being young and being carefree and playing video games without a care in the world. I think that kind of the flood system, if you've played the game, you know this little guy you have here is Flood. It's this little water system which allows you to, like, hover over things and jump up farther than you would normally. That mechanic is integrated very well into the game, I feel like. But I also love that there are some kind of classic Mario levels where you don't have Flood. Those are, people I feel like hate those levels, but those are actually some of my favorite levels in the game. Again, I feel like it's very well done. Very kind of charming vibe with the Isle Delfino. Kind of summery, kind of Hawaiian-ish vibe. Very nostalgic, this game, as you can tell. So, alright, let's move on to number 2. And number 2 is Paper Mario, the Thousand Year Door. Paper Mario, the Thousand Year Door. This is my favorite Mario game ever. That's a hint, the next game is not a Mario game. I don't even know where to start with all of the things that are amazing about this game. It I hate the word quirky, but if quirky didn't have that connotation that I dislike, I would describe this game as quirky. It's also a very charming game. I love all the characters, and the storyline is great. All the levels you go through are all very fun. It's just a great game. I've played this game through probably about 3 different times, and it's always wonderful. I actually recently also played Paper Mario the Origami King, and I gotta say, I just kept comparing it to the Thousand Year Door and just kept being disappointed. Origami King is fun. Like, if you want to play it, I recommend playing it. I think it's fun. But it just doesn't come anywhere near the Thousand Year Door. So try not to compare them if you've played Thousand Year Door. The paper mechanics are just so elegantly incorporated into this game. And all the sidekicks that you get, they all have like their own fun personality, backstory, and they all like help you advance in the game. And each level is like completely different, but so fun. And although I will say, one thing I dislike about this game is the whole game is very easy until the last level. So if you don't spend a lot of time like getting different badges and leveling up, you will certainly struggle with the last level. Because that's when you suddenly like need all of these things that you might have ignored earlier in the game because you could just kind of like slide by without them. So that is one critique I have of this game, is that it starts off too easy and then it gets too hard. But if you pay attention and you get all your badges and you level up enough, then you'll be fine. It's like the difference is very great between the beginning and the end, but the overall difficulty isn't too bad, so it's not like I think it's a super hard game. It's just, it's not very equally distributed through the levels. I am definitely very story-driven in games, and very exploration-driven. So games that have those two elements I tend to really like, even if like the graphics aren't the best. Very story-driven in games, so if you are too, you'll probably like some of my recommendations. Alright, are you ready for number 1? So far I feel like I have mentioned a lot of very well-known and popular games, so I haven't had very many like interesting kind of takes. But my favorite game ever is one that is a little bit lesser known. It's Chibi Robo. This is my favorite game ever, 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 ever. I first played this game when I was like 8 or so, very young, and I have replayed it so many times. It's a very quick game to get through once you like know how to do everything. It only takes me about like 18 to 20 hours to get through, so very quick. You can do it in a couple weekends. If you play a lot. I love the story of this game. The premise is you are this little robot that this family bought to like help them clean around the house. But it turns out that the toys in the house come to life at night, and you never sleep because you're a robot, so you get to talk to them. And it's so clever because this is also kind of an early open world game, and you're a little robot, like you're about like this big. So the whole house is like your world, and all like, but you're like very small size, so like everything's so big, and all the toys come to So this